Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at Tallinn, a game by Stefan Risthaus, published by his own Ostia Spiele, that is for 2 to 4 players and plays in about 10 to 20 minutes. Tallinn is the capital of Estonia, the largest city there, but as you might tell by the tower in the background and this dude standing here, we're back in the 14th century, and you are worrying about taking control of Teutonic knights and merchants and monks in Tallinn and trying to best your neighbors. Shorthand description for this game: minimalist majorities. Very few components in the game, and it's all about having more than everyone else. How does this game work? Here are the components in Tallinn, with a set of cards, including a scoring card and 10 playing cards for each player. You put out the scoring card, put a token on it to track your score during the game. You have a set of 6 starting cards. You shuffle the deck and give one starting card to each player to give them some members of starting factions. You have a mini expansion of 4 cards called Emperor's Envoy. We'll put those aside. Have another mini expansion called Chronicles. Put those aside. Each player will shuffle their deck, and the deck consists of 10 cards, with each card being double-sided, or at least double-sided on the same side, in that how you play the card determines what you get during the game. So if I play with this side up, I get 3 knights. Play this side, I get 3 merchants. Here, I get 1 knight, and we score knights, but only for me. Here, I get 2 monks, and so on. I'm going to shuffle my deck and start with a hand of 3 cards, and each other person does the same. On a turn, each of us chooses a card, puts it down, and then flips it up, and we reveal our choice by sliding under the starting card. Okay. When you put out a scoring symbol, then you score based on how you compare to your opponents. So I have 3 monks, and I'm scoring monks, and I beat this guy, I get 2 points. So now it's 6. I look at this guy, I tie, I get 1 point. If I compared to someone else and they had more monks than me, I would get no points. So each time you score, you are trying to outdo each other person. This person does the same. They chose poorly, scoring monks, playing randomly off the top of their deck in this example, and they lose and they score no points at all. Each time you score, you can take a card from your row, not your starting card, but other cards, or a card from your hand, and convert that card to a tower. And you do this choice simultaneously. You go 1, 2, 3, and if you want to convert a particular card, you point to that. If you want a card in your hand, if you want no card, you point to the table, however you want to determine that. But you flip over the card, and it becomes a tower card, which will be important for endgame scoring. You refill your hand of 3 cards, and you do this again. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, now this person scores for monks, and they beat both of us, getting 4 points in the process. But they don't want to convert anything into a tower. And you continue with all the cards, and some people may run out of cards early, depending on whether they use a card in their hand to score a majority to create a tower, rather. After we have played all of the cards, we have one final faction scoring, where you count up all the faction symbols of each type. So I count all my knights, he counts knights, he counts knights. And if you beat someone now, you get 4 points. If you tie someone, you get 2. If you have 5 or more symbols than someone else, you take an additional point from that person directly. I have such influence with the knights. They look down on you, and you lose a point, and I gain a point. You do that for each of the 3 factions. You then take all of the cards that you have flipped face down for towers. You count each of the 3 factions among all the tower cards in your hands. Let's say these are my factions. I have 2 yellow, I have 4 red, I have 9 blue. I use my highest score, my tower score is 9. And whoever has the highest score among the tower is, if they beat each other person, they get 6 points. And whoever's the second most is going to get 6 points from each person they beat. And the third most will get 6 points from the fourth place, assuming they actually beat them. If you tie someone, you get 3 points each for the tie. You then see who has the most points, and that player wins the game. And there's an overview of Tallinn, which I played 3 times now on a press copy from Ostia Spiele with 2 and 4 players. And as you might imagine with a majorities game, those player counts play very differently. With 2 people, you have only 1 other person. You see all the cards that they're playing, unless they take a card from their hand and bury it as a tower. And you're just trying to edge them out over and over again. And each time you score during the game, you get 0, 1, or 2 points. That's it. Very minimal. Then at the end, you get the faction count, 4, 2, or 0, depending on whether you edge them out. The tower, 6, 3, or 0. So you're just trying to edge people out again and again. And of course, if you can win 2 of the 3 factions most of the time, that's probably going to be enough. And maybe you bury that third faction in order to win with the tower at the end of the game, depending on what they have over, depending on what they're doing. Again, 10-minute game, very boiled down to the basics of majorities. You're just trying to do that over and over again with some randomness of the card draw. With 4 players, now you've got 3 people, and you can't track everything, or at least I couldn't track everything, and you're just trying to hit people at the right times and hope that things go your way. And maybe you've got a plan for what you're going to build up in the tower, but you don't know what everyone else is doing, so you hope for the best with what you're doing. Again, very bare bones, straightforward, minimalistic game with very few components. It's interesting the way the turn just goes. Choose a card, reveal. Choose a card, reveal. Sometimes you score, and then sometimes you worry about the tower. What are you going to do with the tower? What's the importance of the endgame scoring versus the faction scoring at the end based on what everyone else is doing? It's hard to judge, and of course it depends on what they're doing as well. Now, this game works similar to Risthouse's earlier game from 2015, Blindes Hund, in that there are little expansions as well to twist up the play. Sort of the Michael Schacht's school of design as well. So one faction, the Envoys faction, it's 4 cards, 1 card for each player. Now you're playing 11 rounds instead of 10, depending on whether you play. And one of these, it's got 2 Joker symbols, and you score the faction that you want. These count as the faction that you want, and then, hey, you score that one. And at the end of the game, these count as part of your smallest faction, boosting that up. That's it for the expansion. You have 4 cards. It's very simple to add that in. You have the Chronic expansion. Set of 6 cards. You pull out 1 at random, pull out a second one at random. You cover them up. And now after 4 rounds, you're going to evaluate this score, which is if you have 5 yellow among the cards you play, not including your starting card, then you get this bonus, which is based on the number of players. And at the end of the game, you got this here. Can you sacrifice this many knights? If so, you get a bonus. You sacrifice this, double that amount, then you get an even larger bonus. Okay, little twist. There's little extras that Risthaus has published separately as well. The assembly. It's got these 12 little mini meeples. And each time you score, you can take a meeple not of the color that you're scoring, and at the end game, this gets added to the faction of that color. So, okay, I get something now while I'm scoring and try to boost something at the end of the game. Here's this Elder expansion. 3 meeples with stickers. That's all it is. And the first person to get 5 symbols of a faction, not including their starting card, gets this one, and that doubles the number of symbols in that faction during the final scoring. Very simple. Risthaus just announced prior to Spiel 2016, where this game's going to be available, that, oh, hey, here's another postcard expansion with these little 4 things that you cut out, and it's going to do something. It's so minimal and bare bones, sort of this, let's say an elegant design, but it's pure in the way that he's presented it. And now you can do a little twist here and a little twist here. There's just a few knobs, but you work it in different ways. You try different varieties in what you're going to play. And again, I haven't even tried these in the 3 games. It's interesting just to think about adding those little knobs on later on. But of course, try out the basics first.